Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. My hometown hit the national news from April 16th to April 23rd, 2017. The Facebook killer was found at a local McDonald's and was chased toward the downtown area, where he eventually killed himself. This story is about my very close encounter with that man. I'm a 25-year-old female. It all started on Sunday, April 17th. It began as a normal day. I woke up around 3:30 p.m. as I worked the night shift at a local fast food restaurant. I wouldn't go into work until around 5 p.m. or so. Work went on as normal until my boss got a text from his roommate saying there was a guy who shot an old man and filmed it on Facebook Live. Since we had been at work all night, we hadn't heard about this yet. There were apparently various reports of him being seen in our city at a store near the restaurant as well. Those reports were unverified, though, and the police said there was no reason to believe he was here. My boss dismissed it as a social media frenzy and a bunch of misinformation, although he did double-check our lobby doors to make sure they were closed and locked. The rest of the night went on like any other Sunday night. At home, I woke up around 3:30 a.m. and hopped on social media to see if they had found the Facebook killer. To my dismay, he was still at large. Luckily, there were some reports that he had been spotted in Philadelphia. I was relieved and decided I would walk home that night after work. My shift went by slowly but smoothly. Around 2 a.m., I got out of work and decided to stop by a 24-hour store nearby. I picked up some groceries and finished around 2:45. As I was walking home, I saw a man in a white Ford Fusion. I was extremely paranoid at this point, so I dove into some bushes, hoping and praying he didn't see me. The car ended up pulling into another fast food restaurant, but without stopping, he turned around and pulled away. I sat in those bushes until his headlights were out of sight. Then I booked it home and went straight to bed. The next morning, I woke up and found out that the Facebook killer had been seen driving in my city once more. He was driving, you guessed it, a white Ford Fusion. He had been spotted the previous night about 500 yards from where I work, while I was hiding in those bushes. That sighting was shortly before the police chase that eventually ended with him killing himself. I understand the story might not seem particularly scary on the surface, but to me, it could have meant my life. Had he seen me? He stated on a Facebook Live video that he was going to kill as many people as he could before the police caught him. In retrospect, I probably should have called the police as soon as I saw that car, but I wasn't 100% sure it was him. I'm still pretty on edge about the whole thing. I feel very sorry for that poor man he killed as well. This guy was severely mentally ill. He should have gotten the help he so desperately needed before going off the deep end. But I guess that doesn't always happen. Back in the late 90s, my parents used to run a local skating rink in the small town I grew up in. There wasn't very much to do around that town, so most of the time, my friends and I would hang out at the rink. We weren't exactly the rebellious type, so we didn't do anything like go out back and smoke cigarettes or anything like that. We were all just about having fun skating. Since my parents both had day jobs, the rink would only be open between Thursdays and Sundays, which meant Monday through Wednesday I had the place all to myself. They would often have me meet them there after school, and I would either do my homework at one of the tables or throw on a pair of skates and roll around. They would then take care of the business stuff in the back. One rainy afternoon in February, when the rink was decorated all over with pink and red hearts for Valentine's Day, my mom and I stopped off there after she picked me up from school. I didn't have any homework to do that night, luckily, so I had the freedom to roll around all I wanted while my mom took care of some paperwork in the back office. As I was out on the skating floor doing laps while the Bee Gees were playing over the PA system, I noticed what looked like the silhouette of a person ducking behind one of the barricades. The lighting wasn't very good, since the place was technically closed, only about half of the overhead lights were on. I was used to skating in the semi-darkness, but I'd be lying if I said it was completely safe. There were lots of isolated spots where you couldn't really see just beyond the barricade. Being a dumb kid, I ignored the possibility of a creepy figure crouching in the darkness and just kept on skating. A few minutes later, I made it to the far side of the rink to step off the skate floor, when all of a sudden, an arm shot out from behind the barricade and grabbed my face. A hand wrapped around my mouth and covered my eyes. Seconds later, I felt another arm wrap around my neck in a chokehold. My skates were jerked out from beneath me as I was dragged away sideways. My legs were dragging behind me, and I couldn't regain my balance because the wheels kept sliding around beneath me. Had the intruder continued to simply drag me away, I probably wouldn't have been able to escape. For whatever reason, though, they decided to try and lift me up off the ground, maybe to get a better grip. My feet left the floor and were no longer sliding. I took advantage of that moment to try and kick the guy as hard as I could. My skates connected right with the middle of his shin. The man cursed and stopped in his tracks. I kicked him over and over again until he released me. By some miracle, I landed on my skates well enough to skate away like a bird flying across the rink to the other side. I glanced behind me to see the figure exiting out the back door, holding his leg in pain with a limp. A minute or so later, I explained to my mom through a river of tears what had just happened. She immediately locked down the building and called the police. To make a long story short, the cops never found who the would-be kidnapper was. I couldn't give a clear description of him, because it all took place in one of the dark areas of the rink. Needless to say, this put a stop to my after-school skating sessions for a while. After the incident, we made it a point to check the place more often and make sure all the doors were locked and secured. About 5 years later, my parents ended up selling the roller rink. It was just too much for them to handle on top of already having full-time jobs. People always ask me why I didn't bite or scream or fight back. Well, in that moment, I was honestly so shocked that I didn't even know how to react. I'm glad I had the clarity of mind to kick when I did, or else who knows what might have become of me. Despite the terrible experience, I hated watching the place being torn down after it was sold. They tore it down to make way for a new subdivision or something. What's always stuck with me over the years, something I was too young to realize at the time, is that the man must have known I sometimes skated in that rink alone. I sometimes wonder how many times I was skating by myself, completely unaware that someone was watching me from the shadows. On my 18th birthday, my two best friends and I grabbed a bottle of tequila and took off in my dad's car. We went to the old arcade by the shore of Lake Michigan. It had been closed down for a few years because, no joke, Jeffrey Dahmer had apparently targeted one of his victims there or something. The police had sealed the place off to collect evidence, and it was never reopened to the public. On the far side of the building, there was a skate floor. One of my friends knew there was a way to break in through that area. Our plan was to get drunk and skate around before heading to the arcade. We knew we couldn't actually play any of the games since the power would be out, but we thought it would be cool to look around for old prizes or some souvenirs. We parked the car down by the lake and entered through the side door. Even though the door said push, my friend pulled it open with all his might, and it cracked open easily. A chain caught it in place after a few inches, but there was still enough room for all three of us to slip inside. We each immediately took a shot and turned on our flashlights. We began to walk across the wide-open floor, our footsteps echoing loudly throughout the large room. There were empty beer cans and all sorts of trash strewn across the floor. We strapped on the skates we'd brought and rolled around in the dark anyway. Yeah, we were some of the dumbest kids you've ever seen, but come on, we were having fun. We didn't even make it one lap before one of my friends tripped over something hard sticking out of the ground. We all stopped and shined our lights on the area. The obstruction was a red candle that had melted down to its base and sealed itself to the floor, forming a little bump. Being the dumb kid I was, I took a swing at it with my skate and knocked off a chunk of wax. I was going to keep skating, oblivious to the possibility of tripping over anything else, when my friend scanned his flashlight further and discovered a large circle painted on the floor. Inside that circle were many smaller, intertwining circles, and at least 5 or 6 other candles were scattered throughout the area. I laughed and said, "Damn, some real exorcism stuff went down here." My friend skated into the center of the circle, where something had clearly been burned. The floor was scorched black. I kept laughing, but my friends were more curious than amused. One of them raised their flashlight to the ceiling above the circle. Somewhere in the rafters, she noticed something and called out, "Hey, do you guys see anything up there?" My other friend and I looked up and saw what appeared to be chains dangling from above. Something large and bulky was suspended just out of sight in the darkness. I leapt up and swatted at one of the chains. That was incredibly stupid because I was wearing skates and fell flat on my face when I came back down. My friend immediately started choking and screaming, not because of me, but because, apparently, when I smacked that chain, something wet struck her from above. My other friend shined his flashlight on her, and we discovered some kind of dark red liquid dripping down her face, between her eyes and along her nose. We all freaked out and bailed, not even bothering to take our skates off properly. We awkwardly rolled back to the car, and my friend drove off the property with her skates still on. She insisted someone had followed us across the property and that she'd heard heavy footsteps pursuing us. I don't recall hearing anything, but I was pretty buzzed at that point. It might have been paranoia, or maybe it actually happened. I couldn't tell. I also forgot to mention that before we drove there, I had a few beers. Being a teen, I was pretty much a lightweight. Unbelievably, we made it home safely that night without crashing. We were at that place less than 20 minutes. That building is gone now, demolished long ago. Whatever we saw that night, it's long gone too. And I don't think we'll ever find out what it was. But it begs the question, what exactly was being suspended from the roof? I'll never be able to answer that, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the dark red liquid that struck my friend in the face was some kind of blood. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.